Hello, and welcome to Bridgeford Trust Company's Delivering Direction and Control podcast series. Our podcast series is designed to educate, challenge, and inspire listeners while keeping you updated on developments regarding modern trust law and powerful planning opportunities available, all in an effort to deliver direction and control to clients and their advisors.
Well, hello, everybody. This is David Warren, chairman of our board and co-founder, again here with a podcast interview that I'm very excited about. And I continue to be energized and inspired by the podcast series with, I think now over 60 episodes of thought leadership discussion from people and with people from all over the world. And it's humbling to be able to have discussions with such intelligent people about big ideas and where we think the markets are going and areas of collaboration, and today's going to be a great conversation, and it's with two leaders from a group called Affinity, which they will explain. But these two are real forces of nature, and they're new friends to Bridgeford and new friends to me. And I met them first in Miami over drinks, where I discovered Alex, who's not on the screen but listening and may chime in from time to time, have a peculiar liking for the same drink that people think is weird. It's an alcoholic drink, but I'm not going to say it in the recording because I want to keep it a secret, Alex, because I don't want everybody to start drinking it. But that's when I realized that Alex and I had the same taste in our adult beverage. I knew that we were going to do a lot of great business together. So, and that's actually true. I didn't care about what you guys really did. I was more interested in what you drank. But all kidding aside, I mean, very quickly, right out of the first couple of minutes, we developed a common synergy. I think a common focus on different sectors and really kind of trying to do the right thing. And what you've done with Affinity over the years is pretty amazing. And before I get to a little bit of a description to review, I've watched a bit now since I first met you when you said, well, we're coming to Florida. And you came to Florida, and we'll talk about why you did that. But also from that first meeting, I suddenly saw you everywhere in California, New York. And I was kind of amazed at how, you said you were going to come to the United States, and you came to the United States, and you've done an amazing job, both you and Alex and the company, just making yourself present everywhere. And that's always been sort of the secret of Bridgeford, is to appear to be everywhere all the time. Not easy to do. I think, Andy, you were at like 13 different events in 14 days or something, as I recall from your LinkedIn post. But all joking aside, you should be congratulated. There's a common spirit and a common energy, and I think a kindred spirit in terms of the way you have your passion about your focus, and we have our passion about ours, and our ability to collaborate means really the world to me. So both Alex and Andy are from Isle of Man, and so we're the Bee Gees, which is why I really like them so much. I don't know why I'm so surprised that the Bee Gees are from Isle of Man, and I was going to ask Alex and Andy if they could sing Staying Alive for me, because it's one of my favorite songs, but we can do it later. But I will stop joking for a moment to say that they built a tremendous business out of the Isle of Man. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Isle of Man, it's a beautiful place that has a tremendous focus and hub for financial services, which a lot of people I don't know realize. I didn't realize, to be honest, many years ago. But they've taken that expertise and talent and opened up offices all over the world. So Andy is the CEO of the company. Alex is the COO, and they're very much locked at the hip in what they're building and what they're doing, and they're just amazing human beings. So with that, Andy, I'll finally let you say hello, and we'll talk about some fun things.
Thanks, David. Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate it a lot. I echo the comments and sentiment on the Bridgeford side. When we first came here in 2023, we met many service providers along the way. Bear in mind, we're just, a relatively small organization coming to a big world, coming from a small island. And, Miami is a very exciting place, but also a daunting proposition for someone coming in. And
for sure. It was for us too. I know exactly what you mean. It was for us too. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We hit it off straight away, have the same values. We are really focused on providing that old school, traditional service that clients so value, particularly on our side of things. And I know it's the same for you with on our side, luxury assets, you looking after high net worth families, etc. but we're doing it in a cutting edge way. And so the way we see our business is that we're, really looking for organic growth at every opportunity. And we're delighted to be here on a personal level. And from a business standpoint, we're loving life in Miami.
Yeah, I agree. I want to comment on that. When we came now, I guess almost 5 years ago, well, I've been coming for years, like I'm sure you are now, because I've just been developing markets and relationships. And it's daunting in so much as there's an intensity to the business community here that is different than New York City, where we operate a lot, and especially Southern California. And you really have to be aware of who you're talking to in Miami, because we're not always quite sure where the angle is going. But a vibrant and exciting market. But I agree with you. It took us some time to get our footing. There's something that's very, very intriguing to me about you and your company, and there's a very powerful entrepreneurial spirit, which has clearly pushed you in so many different business lines, and I love that, because it seems like you find a need somewhere in the world and you find a solution for it, or you build it, or you collaborate to make it happen. So before we get into your business lines, because I love how diversified they are, it's just so interesting to me. But tell me your locations at the moment, other than Miami.
So started off in the Isle of Man in 2004, moved on to Malta in 2011. In the early days, we were doing a lot of luxury asset structuring. We still do that now. So lots of aircraft structuring.
Yeah, define that for our audience, because I really want people to understand why they need to call you for certain things. So talk about the luxury.
So primarily that comes back to the formation of an owning company to own a luxury asset, be it a yacht or an aircraft, predominantly yachting for us. So when we launched the business in 2004, that was around the time that the Isle of Man launched its yacht register. 2003 that was launched. And on the back of that, you had many, many traditional trust and corporate service providers that suddenly...
Let's go back. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So when you say yacht, why was that a big deal that Isle of Man did that? And what does that mean for a yacht owner?
So every yacht has a flag. You'll see them flying around on the back of each boat that you see around the harbours, etc. And it'll have the flag and the port of registry. That's the nationality of the boat. And the Isle of Man actually wrote the yacht codes that the UK ended up using. They wrote that in the mid-90s, but didn't really go anywhere with it. In 2003, they launched their own yacht code, having seen the success of the UK, and decided, actually, we'll get this out now, and launched our own yacht register. And on the back of that, many service providers in the Isle of Man decided to focus on the yachting industry. And it was a lot more than just doing the flagging. So the flagging would lead the way, but then you'd be forming the company. Looking at, once the company's formed, we're very hands-on in everything that we do. So, and it's slightly different back home to the US market, insofar as everything that we do, we would be directors on. Every company that we form, we would act as directors on. And obviously, once you're a director, you're ultimately responsible and need to have that intrinsic knowledge of how the operations of that asset work. So in the case of a yacht, it required us to understand the requirements of how to employ crew, make sure that the yacht is managed correctly, that there's proper safety standards on board, etc. And then also the more routine administration, providing the crew with prepaid debit cards, credit cards, reconciling cash, providing financial statements, insuring the boat, dealing with claims, looking after all the day-to-day. Some of these boats are, literally floating palaces and might employ 50 plus crew. So running an operation like that is complex. And really that's where we focused. That was the opportunity in the Isle of Man back in 2004 when we launched the business. But then that started moving around. So those changes culminated in us forming our Malta office in 2011.
Okay.
And then
why Malta? What brought you to Malta?
So Malta is now the leading European jurisdiction for yachting transactions. So any commercial yacht that we would structure would now go through Malta. They understand yachting. They're well respected maritime jurisdiction. They also have a great quality flag that's well respected across the industry. So generally speaking, any of our European work, anything that requires a European importation would have a Maltese touch point now. So we launched that office in 2011. I think we have around 15 staff down in Malta now, and that's since launching that office. Then we've gone on to do other things. I'll touch on shortly our sectors, but we're heavily focused on gaming, and we have a big gaming
Yeah,
business.
I want to get to gaming in a minute, but if you don't mind, I want to go back because getting involved in the luxury business, for lack of a better way of saying it, I guess, really is a gateway into family office services, and you say on your website, private well services. But if somebody can and wants a yacht and needs it to be registered properly, and then also needs staff on the yacht to be managed, and the legal issues and the accounting issues and the whole myriad of things that go in, it's almost like a mini family office just dealing with that yacht, the way that I understood it when we talk more in detail at Heckerling. And so it's natural that you evolved in the private wealth space because that's very much a part of somebody's wealth, and it's got to lead into you doing other things for them. So talk about that.
Exactly, and that's actually one of our most recent sort of service lines has been sport, and that involves looking after the wealth and handling the wealth of high net worth individuals working in sport, and that was a direct result of our interest in yachting and aviation. So we had many clients that had come to us that were perhaps Formula One team principals, even all the way from the Isle of Man. Before we even had a Florida office, we had an ex-NBA basketball player, soccer players, etc.
Wow.
And so we developed, without really attempting to, it just by chance, we ended up with a number of clients that were from the sporting world. And that really focused our interest in sports and seeing some of the problems and challenges in sport. And I think that serves as a good example of how we've migrated and built on those relationships. And as I said, the whole sports service is focused around trying to fix some of the problems in that sporting world.
Right, and you became of use to them. I mean, that's the whole point of what we're all supposed to be doing, is to figure out ways to be useful. Not just make money, that's fine. Certainly we need to put food on the table. But I mean, I think that's what I'm so enamored of what you have done, is you've gone into different spaces to solve problems for people. And which brings you to another common touch point or intersection of our companies and our friendship is Trusted Advisor. So you and I know you joined a little bit after I did, and I'm a big fan of it. But that's a great platform for you, because Trusted Advisors, for our audience, check out our website. I mean, it's a phenomenal organization that focuses on their entertainment, actors, sports people, and I think they do an excellent job. And I think it pulls together experts like Andy and Alex to be of use. We were on a panel together, which is, I think, the best panel they've ever had. I'm just kidding. But what's been your experience with Trusted Advisor?
Oh, phenomenal! I can't speak highly enough of them. We came to Miami in 2023, and you know what it's like when you're entering a new market. You don't even have the connections to rely on to provide introductions. So.
Right.
When we first came, it was, organically churning contacts, and you might go out to 100 people and you're lucky if you get 5 responses, because, unless you get that intro, it's you're not going to get anywhere really. So we made the best of it in 2023. And then the lead up to 2024, contacted Matthew, had joined Trusted Advisor by that stage. And he said, well, I'll take care of all that for you. So our 2024 meetings, a whole summer worth of meetings, coordinated by Matthew and the team at Trusted Advisor. And I can't speak highly enough of them, deliver on everything that they say that they're going to do.
Yeah, they're amazing. So for, again, our artists, Matthew Hoffman is the founder of it. And if you have a focus, if anybody has a focus in this space, the entertainment sports space, that's the place you want to be. So the yachting and the work you do there for those owners builds you out as I'm saying, as sort of a mini family office of sorts. Brings you into the sporting world, and then where do you go from there? I mean, I see all the different service lines. When in corporate services, I understand, and that's an easy offshoot, right? That you're going to need the help with the commercial property and escrow services and all those things that go into, I would imagine, the yacht maintenance and all of that. But you got into regulatory services, which you say on your website, regulatory industry services. And this e-gaming has me really interested. And I know I asked you way too many questions about it at Heckerling. And poor Alex just won another one of our special drinks, but I just wanted to keep talking about the e-game. No, but talk about, first of all, how'd you get into that? And it sounds like it's explosive. And just talk about what you're doing in that space.
So I'll be honest with you. These sectors are makes our business very interesting. It's exciting to be part of Affinity. I think, one day you're literally looking after yachting transaction, the next day you're working on a gaming client. But one of the challenges that we have is trying to explain to people that we're so active in all these different areas, and they don't really tie in with each other. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
You can get the luxury asset side of things with a yacht and an aircraft. They work hand in hand. But by focusing our business around niche emerging sectors, which we always have done from day one, means that it's very fragmented in the terms of the services that we cover, and we are intrinsically involved in everything that we do. So as an example, our service lines now, having started with yachts and aircraft, well, that business then starts to migrate to Malta, which is great for our Malta office, but we're left in the Isle of Man with a company that's maybe 10 years old now and seeing a large chunk of its portfolio migrated to a different jurisdiction. So you're sort of in a position where you say, well, what do we do now? Well, we look for the next new emerging sector on the island.
Yeah.
And it just so happened around that time it was online gaming. It's been prevalent in the Isle of Man for around 20 years now. Mm-hmm. We were, I think it would be fair to say, one of the last to the table in terms of the service providers that looked towards the gaming sector on the island. But we did very well at it. We applied the same ethos that we've applied in all of our sectors, which is really fixed fee model. Everything that we try and do is, there are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, we do things on a fixed fee basis, just provide great service, no additional hidden charges or anything like that. We're always very.
But describe the services that are involved with e-gaming, I guess. And it's I would imagine a lot of our listeners and watchers today might not know. I mean, we know what it is, I guess. In fact, I don't think I understood it as well as I should have when I asked you all my questions in Orlando. So talk about the industry and then talk about what you do to support it, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the industry is significant, global. Anyone operating a online gaming product, and that would be, online casino sportsbook, because that's often one that's sometimes lost in translation, particularly speaking in the US. People will assume you mean gaming is like Candy Crush or something like that. No, we're talking about licensed gaming services. So literally online casino, sportsbook, etc., which obviously is closed down in the US over recent years, gradually starting to open up now state by state. But it really is a global business, and for anyone operating in that business, you need to have a license. Or certainly it's desirable to have a license. Certain jurisdictions we would say are pre-regulated, which means they don't have their own regulations domestically. Mm-hmm. But in order to facilitate setup with payment processors, with banking relationships, etc., and also to demonstrate that you're looking after your players and protecting the players, and the players have assurances that they're going to be paid out, etc., you need to have a license. And a license will really, adhering with the regulations, demonstrates that you're doing things properly from a governance standpoint, that you're following some regulations, you're making sure that the players are treated correctly, paid out correctly. And the Isle of Man has been a leading jurisdiction in that area for the past 20 years or so. I mean, when I say leading, I mean very top tier. There's other jurisdictions out there that can facilitate an entry into the market. Mm-hmm. And often clients will go that route and perhaps go with smaller, more cost efficient, I think it would be fair to say, jurisdictions, but the top tier where they want to be heading before they get to the stage where they're sponsoring, a Premier League football team, etc., is to the Isle of Man. And it's nice from our standpoint because it means that the clients that we then service and want to come to the Isle of Man are, legitimate. They've demonstrate that they're coming from a good place by wanting to adhere to very high regulatory standards.
Yeah, if I could jump in, I mean, you've said it a few times now, and it's a passion point for me and Bridgeford, and has been, is the importance of jurisdiction. And our audience knows I've been talking about it for almost 15 years now in the trust space and finding the top tier trust jurisdiction because it matters. But it isn't just my industry that it matters, and you've said it now a couple of times. If you pick the right jurisdiction to operate and do business and be the marquee service provider, but then something changes and you have to pivot into another jurisdiction, but it still underscores the vital importance of understanding jurisdictional differences and why you need to choose the right one up front from a business perspective, and then also from a consumer of services perspective. We need to understand, right, why it makes sense to be an Isle of Man if you're in the gaming industry, and so I love that, and I think that's where another area is why we're such kindred spirits, because you understand that, I understand that, and when it brings me back to your Florida office. So what is it about the jurisdiction quest, I would say, that brought you to Florida in the first place, and Miami in particular?
Well, it's evolved over time, really. The first thought was, so we formed our Cayman Island office in 2021.
Okay.
Picked up a number of clients from the Latin American region, and we got off to a great start because the way in which we launched our Cayman Island office would be that clients over many years would come to us and say, hey, can you form a Cayman Island company? And we're very straight with the clients, and we'll say, well, we don't have an office there, but we'll be able to find a home for you. And maybe we'll provide some certain services from our home in the Isle of Man.
Right.
But we'll find a local corporate service provider in Cayman that can incubate your business.
Sure.
So when we decided to come to Cayman, it's a bit of a no-brainer because we had a book of business that we could migrate in from the outset. Chose a terrible time to do it right in the middle of COVID, which delayed things a little bit, but we got there eventually. But really, having migrated that business, we want to grow. And everywhere we go, we're not there to sit on our hands. We're there to find that organic growth opportunity.
Absolutely.
So the thought process really started with, let's look at Miami as the gateway for Latin American clients moving into the US. Let's spend some time out there and see where the opportunities are. We came here 2023 for the first summer trip. I've got a family of 3 children and a wife as well. So we had to time that correctly around summer. So we spent the summer holidays out here in 2023, had as many meetings as we possibly could, and just found the local business community to be so hospitable and so friendly, so welcoming. I've noticed a big difference now having come here, as you said at the beginning of the conversation, once you've shown that commitment, right, then that's really something else.
Yeah, if I can interrupt you on that point, and I think it works everywhere we go. I mean, when I say we, I mean our companies. I mean, we have Southern California, exact same thing. You show a commitment to the community, and they open their arms up to you. Same thing in Northern California. Just launched our office there. Same thing in Philadelphia, which is kind of my backyard. I suspect the same thing for us in New York City when we launch our office there in the fall. And so I think you said that perfectly. Once there's you demonstrate that you're not just flying in and out of the city or the state to capture revenue, you're putting up a commitment financially to be there. It changes the whole conversation, and people are suddenly going to call you, just like they started to call me in Miami as soon as we hit the ground, because you're seen as a legitimate player in the business space. And yeah. I think you're doing all the right things because that model has worked so well for us domestically. And of course, you've been doing it all over the world, but I think so many people miss that. And again, it's another, I think, intersection of why I have so much respect for you and Affinity and Alex, of course, because that's our playbook too. And, it's not even, doesn't have to be an expensive playbook to follow. So That was perfectly said. Yeah, please keep going.
And the other thing that's really nice is that it's so reciprocal. So I'll be having a lot of meetings whilst I'm here. Mm-hmm. And the unlike going to, taking a trip to London and you're really selling your services, in the case of Miami for us, we're very open with people and we're open with our clients. And so one line that I find myself saying quite a lot recently is that, we have, say, 25 accountants or accounts team of 25 worldwide, but I wouldn't ever attempt to explain to someone how to do a US tax return. It's beyond my skill set and capability.
Mine too. Sorry.
But that's where we need to find those local partners. Sure. So where I say it's reciprocal, we're very humble in our approach, and we highlight the things that we're very good at, but equally outline the areas that we need some help. So as an example, if I had a domestic US trust issue, well, I think that you'd be at the top of our list of people to call.
Thank you.
Equally, if it's a tax matter involving a US client or anything like that, then it's really important for us, as much as it is to promote our services and what we can do in our jurisdictions. It's as important to us to find those local partners that can help us and help our clients in the US. So it's really nice having that reciprocal conversation and not for it to be all about sales and affinity. It's very collaborative and it works both ways. And also, for a Manx guy from the Isle of Man, it's great to actually do some business development from my own doorstep. I spent so many years on flights going here, there, and everywhere. I missed so many first steps and first words. And so it's nice for the family to be focused on one area, doing my work thing here, and enjoying some family time too.
Yeah, well, and the weather's not terrible, so
that helps. Although it's not, we just stopped raining. It was raining all morning. Really,
it's very different than Isle of Man. It seems like it rains there all the time, so you're used to it. And here, it rains when you don't expect it. Like when you walk out of a restaurant and you walked in and it was 90 degrees, and you come out and it's pouring. I don't like that so much, but I'm getting used to it.
Well, it's been quite ironic recently because it seems that you acclimatize to the warm weather very quickly. So recently I've been moaning a lot. I'll be going to a meeting and then meeting someone moaning about how, and they say, you're the British guy and you have the audacity to be here moaning about the weather. But it is slightly different. Back home, it gets very cold and we have great central heating and we stick the television on. The central heating's, it doesn't matter what's going on outside. Here we have, it seems that the heating's not quite as well equipped. So we've sometimes got 3 or 4 layers on over the Christmas time.
Yeah. Hey, it's all relative, right? It's all relative. So you've done something else that is really interesting to me is you've looked at an entirely different region of the world and are carving out opportunity there. And so congratulations on the recent launch of your Cyprus office. So explain to me the trajectory there. What are you doing there? What business line are you promoting? What's special about that jurisdiction? Because obviously you know what you're doing and you're not there by accident, unless you like the weather better. I don't know. But tell me what's going on there.
Cyprus was just a logical one for us. We had an existing contact that was able to get our business up and running fairly quickly. We're just going through the licensing process as we speak, which is pretty efficient in Cyprus. They're very business friendly, very, very complementary to a number of sectors that we work in. There's a yachting industry there, opportunities for European imports, a bit similar to what we do in Malta. It really enhances our European footprint, and it's a great place to do business. Very pro-business, great for our gaming side, less so on the direct services from a gaming standpoint, but attractive incentives to setting up for clients in a European country for European-facing work. So that Cyprus has been quite successful over recent years in fintech business in particular, and that's something that we'll receive quite a number of organic inquiries through for. So really, without promoting Cyprus, we were receiving a number of inquiries, and it was really just a bit of a no-brainer for us. And as I said, it adds to our already pretty strong European footprint with the Malta office.
Well, and I see us doing a lot of work there together. I mentioned to you, there's been a huge increase in interest out of Cyprus for U.S. trusts. And I think it's a function of some changes there in the regulatory environment and particularly with mandatory disclosures of trust, which allegedly is happening. And so, I have not yet been there, but I would love to be there at the same time you and Alex are, and to talk about how we can have a solution for all those trust companies, and which lends itself to a perfect conversation for what you do. And I think if we can collaborate in Cyprus, I think we can solve a lot of problems for a lot of people that seems to be a lot coming out of the government that is unsettling to particularly wealthy people in the region, and also Dubai. I want to talk about Dubai in a moment. But you're so what I'm saying is, again, congratulations on the entrepreneurial geographic spirit, because I think that's what sets you apart and us apart in the industry, is not afraid to get on an airplane and not afraid to look around and say, yeah, this is where we should be. This is the next big thing. Which leads me to your interest and my interest and Trusted Advisors' interest and so many others in Dubai. I know you had plans to do an office there. We may do an office there. There's a big event coming up through Step USA that I plan to go to if the world politics allows me and the danger element goes away a bit. But my point is, Dubai has been talked about everywhere I go, all over, especially for some reason Southern California, and so many groups are pushing us to go in that direction. So, explain to me your interest in Dubai, and I know plans are delayed a bit, but what is it about? Other than I know it's tremendous burgeoning wealth, but that there's a bigger reason for all of us to be there. So, explain to me what you're seeing.
It's one that we looked at probably 10 years ago. I think Dubai's had a few waves, and this one seems to be the largest and most sustained one of those, really.
Hmm.
From our perspective, it's become a really attractive jurisdiction for many of our sectors, but right at the top of the list is yachting. It's the a really attractive jurisdiction. Obviously, huge amounts of wealth out there, high net worth individuals, families, etc.
Hmm.
And more and more we're seeing yachting and aviation transactions and structuring taking place out there. So much like anything else, that's our drive. I mean, I think generally when we look at a new jurisdiction, we want to identify one single opportunity that can make the business sustainable. And we feel reasonably confident that yachting alone would be that for us. That we're finding that many of the law firms that we would deal with on the yachting side, brokers, management companies, already have established presence there.
Mhm.
A bit like how we found Florida. Didn't really finish the story earlier on, but when looking towards the thought process for Florida, the objective was to grow the Cayman Island office, but we also knew that we had that huge opportunity in yachting, with Fort Lauderdale being up the road.
Yeah.
Similar with Dubai. We see the opportunities there on the luxury asset side, and that's what will lead our initiative into Dubai. But we'll keep that open-minded approach. There's many gaming clients that we have that are located or have offices out in Dubai, so we feel that it'll be quite complementary to all of our business lines, really.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and also our collaboration. I mean, I think for your ability to talk about U.S. trust capability, and of course we would be flattered that it's Bridgeford, but I mean that seems to be a whole nother pain point, if, that people are having, not just in Dubai but around the world, and that's where we can collaborate so well. So. So it sounds like most of the jurisdiction, what leads it is the yachting, and then you develop it from there. Does that sound accurate?
I think that would be fair to say. But really, we're open. We're intrinsically involved in a number of sectors. Yachting has led the way for our business. That's where it all started, and that's what our business was built on. And as you've identified, on the back of yachting, there are offshoots to that. But really, we're always open-minded as to what the opportunities bring. So, if we saw an opportunity in a alternate jurisdiction that was focused around gaming, then we'll be there. We're really open-minded and always looking at new opportunities.
Well, so how did you? I noticed, and we talked a little bit about. Explain to our listeners the work you're doing with residency and that sort of thing, because I guess it's a natural conversation that happens, right? Especially with somebody who wants to go to Isle of Man or Malta or wherever to register their yacht and get their flag, but they're also looking at their passports and thinking, well, given some uncertainty in the United States or Europe or wherever, where do we go, or how do we get another residency or another passport? And that is an area that is growing like crazy for sure. So you do some of that as well, it sounds like.
We do, yeah, primarily through the Malta office. Malta's had its own residency program in various different forms over the years.
It's one of the best, I understand, right, in the world.
Yeah, it's been hugely successful. It's changed format a few times, and they've had offshoots of that too, so residency program and citizenship put through naturalization, etc. So it's come out in various different forms over the years, but been hugely successful. And one thing that we're seeing is that clients are just wanting more and more options now, whether that's driven by, political uncertainty. They want a way out, and they want more irons in the fire. And so,
or plan B, or just a plan B.
Plan B.
And I think that's fair. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's also pretty smart to think about a plan B at this point.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and that's one observation that we've had from being in the US, and also, one of the messages that we tend to get a lot of is looking at alternative jurisdictions to structure. So, I thought that the Isle of Man, our trust solution is through the Isle of Man. And I thought that would be a tough sell, in all honesty. Often I'm having to explain where the Isle of Man is on the map. Occasionally people say, "Oh yeah, I know the motorcycle race," or there will be some touch point.
The Bee Gees.
But often the Bee Gees, yeah, that's another one.
Problem is, a lot of our audience isn't old enough to know who the Bee Gees are at this point. So yeah. I'm surprised you know who they are, right? To be honest. No, but I hear what you're saying, though. I mean, sometimes we struggle with South Dakota because it's a flyover state. Nobody knows where it is, and then you have to explain, well, here's why, and then it changes minds. Yeah.
And also, I think just people are actively looking for those alternate options.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
not. I wouldn't say trying to be too clever or anything like that. It's more just they want to see what's out there, and they might get used to whether it be a Cayman structure or a BVI structure, but they're really open-minded about trying new things. And I think I don't know whether that's driven by. Well, I think it is driven by just a little bit uncertainty at home, looking at different options. And I know that that's what's driven. We do some immigration, but I know that the leading firms that are focused around immigration are busier now than ever.
Yeah.
Ours ties really nicely into sports as well. We see advantages with the Portuguese Golden Visa program and Malta. There's attractive advantages for clients working in sport. It gives them certainty if you're moving. Let's say, for example, you're a South American soccer player and you go and sign for a European club, then giving you the opportunity to not only move yourself but your family, and giving them the certainty that at the end of your career, when you retire, that you're able to stay there. These are all attractive things for people working in sport. So it ties in really nicely with the sports solution, and really complementary to the other services that we do too.
Well, and I've learned too through trusted advisors and other groups just how mobile these athletes are. I mean, especially basketball players, and they can make a lot more money in some cases in Europe. And so they have all kinds of cross-border questions and concerns and taxation issues, and if they get an endorsement deal, and how's that work? How do you? I mean, this is not easy. These are not easy questions. So again, I come back to this all the time, and it's the guiding light of Bridgeford. We just want to be a solution and be of use and help people get to where they want to go. And I think you and Alex and your team have done an amazing job building a truly multifaceted service organization with just a crazy entrepreneurial spirit. And I am humbled by the fact that we are going to be able to do some great work together. I know we are, and you're already are an extension in my regard, in terms of, my perspective of being, I talk about you all a lot, especially with our international group, and sort of probe with questions about different things, thinking of you, because I think that, surrounding ourselves by the right service providers that can be experts in things that I'm not, and vice versa, I think adds a lot of credibility in the marketplace right now. And also the independence of it all. I think that there's way too much consolidation going on across our industry. And we can proudly say to a mutual client, look, Affinity and Bridgeford, we're separate, and there's no conflict of interest here. And I think that is the future of service lines or service industry across the board. But the massive consolidation that's happening globally in industries like yours and mine, fueled almost entirely by private equity, is really a problem. And I wanted you to comment on that, because I can imagine how many times people want to buy you, and how many times I know how many times we're approached. And look, who doesn't want a nice big check? But I'm crazy enough to say that I really didn't start Bridgeford just to collect a big check. I actually have a romantic view of taking this company to multiple generations, and my daughter's now in the business and all of those things. So I'm not criticizing somebody who sells into private equity. I'm saying that's not the vision for what I think the future should be, which is conflict of interest, not institutionalized, boutique, the things that you've been talking about. So comment on that. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing I am in the various worlds you play in.
Yeah, I think really we've capitalized on that opportunity. Really, we've seen all sorts of things, in terms of activities with our competitors. I won't name any names, obviously, but we'll see examples of where clients have been overcharged, or they think that they've agreed a fixed fee, but it turns out there's a lot of additional charges that come in through the back door.
Right.
And really, we found an opportunity by having a fair pricing structure, being upfront with clients from the outset. And we're not under any serious pressure to overcharge. We're working for ourselves. We haven't got any hungry mouths to feed behind the scenes.
Right.
Right.
Which is huge. So, I think that's very, very important, and we've used it too as a marketing tool. And you said it perfectly. Like when you say that we're not beholden to somebody who will probably flip the company in 5 years after they make us profitable, that resonates in the marketplace completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, not to, as I think you said, that's not to criticize that approach. I mean, you see some great businesses that have evolved over time using that methodology, but we have to punch to our strengths. And I think one thing that we've always tried to do, I think we really focus on marketing and developing our brand. I'm proud of the fact that we punch well above our rate in that regard.
Yeah.
And so we focus on that, and we focus on providing great service at a proper fair price point. We think there's we've seen firsthand, there's huge opportunities for ambitious organizations that can focus on that organic growth and focusing on servicing clients first. And following what we see in the industry, I love the fact that we're small. We can pivot easily. If we see a new opportunity, we can adapt to that fairly quickly. To give you an idea, we're 75 people worldwide. We have the five offices. So we're in a position where we can be quite dynamic and take advantage of opportunities. And I think that's really, certainly over the last 5-6 years or so, that consolidation that we've seen has only resulted in more opportunities for hungry, ambitious organizations like ours.
Yep.
Furthermore, the consolidation helps because it means that in some cases, if you're competing for a piece of business, well, because there's been so much consolidation, then they've taken out a few of your competitors along the way.
So you've said yes. That's exactly what we're seeing, and we're playing to that strength as well. And it's working well for us. And we love and are passionate about the marketing and thought leadership stuff. Stuff is don't mean to diminish it. Just the thinking about things in a big way. Which brings me to an event we're doing, which we're having a lot of fun promoting in the yacht. Well, you can describe it better than I can because you've been doing this for years. But we're extremely excited and proud to be co-branding something with you. I think it's a happy hour. I unfortunately can't make it, but of course Sydney will be there. I'll be in the cold weather probably in New York City while you guys are enjoying.
Send you photos.
My favorite drink. I can't be there with Alex to share our favorite drink, but Sydney will be. But talk about the event if you don't mind, because we're going to certainly continue to promote it. And for those of you listening, there'll be time for you to register if you're in the area. And so first talk about the show itself, and then let's talk about what we're doing together.
Yeah. So Palm Beach Boat Show, last week of March. It's a highlight of the year for us, one of the highlights of the year. We've noticed, obviously we have Fort Lauderdale here in October as well, and Fort Lauderdale boat show has become huge, but Palm Beach is a lot more intimate, but serious big hitters attending. So you've got clients, you've got many of the brokers, management companies, law firms from Europe will now focus actually more on Palm Beach than they will on Fort Lauderdale. So whilst Fort Lauderdale is a bigger show, but it's just so fragmented with various different things. This is all about luxury yachts, doing transactions, high quality people in attendance. So we're really looking forward to it. We're doing our co-event with Bridgeford on the 26th of March from 4 till 6. Should be good fun at Malta restaurant. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
And we appreciate the opportunity to do that with you. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you both today and the friendship and collaboration that we're growing. For our listeners, please look at the website. It'll all be attached to this podcast. And, to the extent that you're looking to do the kinds of activity that Affinity can support, they're the best in the business as far as I'm concerned, and we're going to do great things together. I think around the world as we continue to expand in many of the same ways you are. So before we let you get back on your big giant yacht, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, just a big thank you to Bridgeford and to you, David. I share a lot of the things that you said. We've met some great organizations whilst being here in Florida, but Bridgeford at the top of that list. I really value the fact that we share our values, and we're really excited to be here and excited to collaborate with you guys later this month.
Excellent. Well, sorry I won't be there, but I will be seeing you soon because you're everywhere, Andy. So we will bump into each other sometime. So thanks again, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks again for listening to Bridgeford Trust Company's Delivering Direction and Control podcast series. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast to keep posted on when new episodes are added. And for more information, you can visit us online at bridgefordtrust.com.